Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Ikigai Essentials. We're actually on season 2, episode 2, and today we're going to focus on what is your purpose in life? Correct me if I'm wrong, Oliver. I think that's what Ikigai actually is, right? Is just kind of finding your purpose in life, going through that exploration just to determine that. I've been, like I mentioned in last week's episode, I've been taking golf lessons, been still reading a lot about golf and looking at golf videos. And one thing that interesting that actually came up just a couple of days ago was, I read this article about Bill Murray is saying that this golf book is helping him lower his handicap. So that kind of sparked my interest and I started reading into it. And there's actually a book by Pia Nilsson and Lynn Marriott, I believe, but it's called Every Shot Must Have a Purpose. I haven't picked up the book yet. I tried to find the audiobook, but it's not available yet. But just reading through that, it just kind of made me think and spark my interest in terms of not just what's my purpose on every golf shot, but what's my purpose in life. So that's what we're going to kind of focus on in today's episode here with Oliver and myself.
All right. Yeah, great. So yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of like the book and kind of what made you interested in it and how you think it can apply beyond just golf?
Absolutely. I was just reading this second paragraph here of the article to Oliver right before this call here. Is just, and I'll read it right now, is, while it might sound simple enough, can become quite difficult to perfect the mental game, as in many amateurs find out. Staying focused and maintaining a positive mindset is pretty tough when you're trying to manage pressure, expectations, ego, and excess of emotions. Just looking at the golf course, the game of golf, and also the game of life, there's a lot of correlation and similarities. There's definitely a lot of pressures, expectations, ego, and a bunch of emotions that go through my mind as well, not only on the golf course, but in real life as well. I kind of sound like a broken record talking about this, but in the last couple of years, just being unemployed, it kind of shifted my thoughts in terms of what is my purpose in life. You asked me a couple of years ago, I'd probably say, I want to be, I don't know, for lack of better words, the breadwinner of the family, the one pulling in the income, the one making the salary to support the family and to feed their mouths and put a roof over their head. But in the last couple of years, it's been frustrating not doing that. The ego kind of stands in the way. I've been kind of depressed and down about that situation. But recently, just been kind of redefining my purpose in life and just kind of refocusing on different things. And I think it kind of all boils down to my purpose in life right now is just to try to be the best father and husband and human being on this earth, I guess you can say. Putting my ego aside, I'm not working now, I'm not getting an income, but just trying to be the best father I can be for my kids, just trying to be the best husband I can be, trying to be the most supportive husband at home. And that's kind of, taking it help me kind of relax and ease some of those emotions that go through. Just like in golf too, there's a bunch of complicated lies, a bunch of complicated shots and trees and structures in the way and all that. But just focusing on those things and committing to it and just kind of going full force and doing those things and applying that to my life.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Golf will probably like never make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense to me
Yeah,
now. Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. So I mean, do you think like there's like lessons that anyone can kind of learn from golf
I think
for like non-golfers that are
absolutely,
listening? How does this
absolutely.
apply for them?
Patience and just take it a shot at a time. Otherwise, it's going to humble you very quickly. One thing that I've read, kind of snippets of this article related to that book, and another thing that my golf coach has told me is when you set up for a shot, 90% of the golf shot is based on your setup. And what that kind of entails is you have a couple of swing thoughts in your mind, like how your stance is, how your grip is. And another thing is kind of how seeing the line of where you want the shot to go and how you want your body and your swing angle to move. And basically, it's just once you get those swing thoughts in mind, you have to commit to that. And I think that's the biggest lesson I learned from golf that can apply to life is once you commit to that shot and once you commit to something in life, just go for it. Don't worry about failure. Don't worry about what other people think. Your results might surprise you. Even if you don't get it right that time, just close your eyes afterwards, replay that shot, and try again next time. And hopefully next time you'll do better. So basically just committing to something and sticking with it. And that's kind of my mindset I've been applying is, the job market sucks, the economy sucks. I'm not getting any much traction on interviews and offers and whatnot. But committing to being a good father, committing to be a better husband is something that I'm really trying to stick to and just go full force.
So just maybe breaking that down even further, like what does it mean to be a good husband and what does it mean to be a good father to you?
I don't really have an answer to that, I guess you can say, but just
Like
doing
I
my
guess maybe
best.
applying it to golf. Can you just think about like the lessons you learned from golf? Like how do you apply those lessons in golf to being a good father or being a good husband?
I think another thing is just not having high expectations, just lowering my expectations personally. I used to think that, oh, if I said something to my kids and they give me a remark back, it's not the response I want to hear. I kind of feel like I didn't do a good job. I kind of, I don't know, for lack of better words, failed as a father. But just kind of accepting that, knowing that I've tried my best. This is what I know. This is what I've learned. I'm trying to teach them. If they accept it or not, I've done my job for now, and just not be
Mm,
so hard on myself.
I see. So it's like if you set up for like a shot in golf and you feel like all your technique is right,
Yep.
the outcome is not as big of a deal as the setup and doing it correctly. Is
Yeah.
that kind of what
I
you
guess
mean?
you can say, because I think it's just, it's there's multiple steps into getting a good golf shot. If I get my setup and posture and swing thought and swing plane all correct, I'm content. I know that if I stick to that and I trust the process, the outcome will come. It will be better, hopefully next time or a few times later.
Okay. So maybe like broadening it out and like looking at, I mean, there's a lot of stress and anxiety in the world right now. Like, how do you, I guess, like, what do you think that maybe people could do to kind of ease some of those tensions, kind of, I guess, based on your opinion?
Yeah, I think really for me is just kind of lower your expectations. Don't be so hard on yourself. Like I've been thinking lately of other people that I know and their situations. And then I think about my life. It's really not that bad compared to a lot of people. My wife even said something yesterday. She's been so busy with work and all the projects that she's been dealing with and meetings and whatnot. She's had a stressful week. And she actually mentioned something yesterday. She's like, we had parent teacher conference with our kids on Wednesday, a couple of days ago. And then we got out of it. And she actually told me, she's like, I feel good. I feel like we're doing a good job as a parent. We got good responses, good feedback from the teachers. The kids are doing well academically and mentally. So she's happy with that. And just putting life in perspective, like I said, I think about another friend that we talked about yesterday. Their kid is dealing with some um, like different syndromes and whatnot that impacts their ability to learn and even speak. And we saw them a couple months ago. We had dinner with them, and it was challenging, right? They have a full time caretaker, which costs a lot of money. They have to send her to a special school. She can't even speak and talk, honestly. And she's already, 12 or 13 years old. And I think, man, it's tough for them. I'm just grateful that we're not in that situation. So just be kind of grateful for what you have and put things in different perspective. Kind of long winded, but I think overall is just lowering your expectations and be grateful for what you have, and just kind of redefining and accepting the purpose that you have in life right now.
So, yeah, so that's a really interesting, I think, it's really interesting, I guess, like the overlap in the golf game to how it can apply to life. So I read a book as well. It's called The Daily Stoic. So it's a book on stoicism, and basically every day there's like kind of like a lesson. So there's like a date on every page. You're really, I guess, really not supposed to read more than one page a day, but so like the maybe I can hear what you have to say about this, but so it's March 7th, 2025. So today's kind of stoic lesson is like don't trust the senses. So it just talks about, and I think maybe this kind of relates to what you said about expectations. It just talks about how our senses are like often are wrong. So I think it happens a lot when we get anxious. We often think a situation that's upcoming is worse than it actually turns out to be. So our senses, kind of like our intuition, often tends to be wrong. The lesson is just to kind of kind of question your senses and your instincts and your patterns and your assumptions about different things, because they all are often wrong. So what do you think, like, what do you think about that, like in terms of like your emotions kind of maybe getting in the way of your expectations? And you talk about purpose and kind of being a good father and all that. How do you like manage like emotions? Do you feel like that's correct, like
Absolutely.
questioning your senses and making sure that you're kind of thinking things through kind of evenly?
One thing that I know you talk about a lot is, Oliver, is meditation and kind of living in the moment. Um, I think my biggest problem is my emotions get in the way of me living in the moment. Like my emotions will just kick in if I'm angry, frustrated, whatever, and I'll react differently. But if I actually take a minute to just kind of sit there and breathe and think about it, my mind's it gets clearer. So I think emotions really do get in my way as well. And just how do we get over that? I think it's just kind of breathing and thinking about it and making a better rational decision instead of just going based off of your immediate instincts or emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of that is just like dealing with people in reality and like face to face. So
Sure.
like road rage and like leaving like a really nasty comment on social media. I feel like they're kind of like the same thing. There's no like agency, there's no responsibility behind that. You could flip someone off in the car, like there's no repercussions, right? They don't know who you are, you don't know who they are. Your boss isn't going to find out, your kids aren't going to find out. Same with social media, right? You just make up like a fake name or whatever. You can kind of say whatever you want, and there's no kind of repercussions. There's no responsibility behind that. So I think that's like a big part of it is like how just dealing with everyone. Just imagine maybe like they're across the table for you, like right in front of you. Like how would you treat them in that situation when
Yeah.
there's complete like responsibility for your actions?
Yeah.
So just like when we talk about like purpose, the kind of the focus of today. So one thing that like kind of bothers me, I guess, is just like like smartphones, just how everyone's on them like all the time. And I understand, it's probably like an old man get off my grass kind of thing, but everyone has a smartphone. I get it, and I see the utility in them, but it's like, so I work at UCLA, just like walking around campus. It's actually not quite as bad. I feel like, I don't know. There's young people, there's a lot, I think they have a lot like good going for them in terms of like being kind of aware of the world. But, people just walking down the street on their cell phone, like all down the sidewalk, like right into you basically, unless you like
Mm-hmm.
flag them down or like, and it's just like crazy to me. It's like you have the world that we're living in and people are just trying to escape like the reality they're in to like this fake reality that isn't real, right? Like you're like on social media. Like I stopped using social media like a couple months ago, and it's
Me
probably been
too.
like the best thing for
Me
me.
too.
So if anyone is following our Instagram, we're not really updating it because of that. I just don't think it's healthy. So I got rid of all that because it's there's a good laugh here and there for sure. There's funny stuff there. There's kind of uplifting stuff. But even the uplifting stuff, you have people like giving money to homeless people, which is great, but they're chronicling it all. So it's like, how
Yeah.
genuine is it really? It's seems very kind of dramatized. So just like giving money to someone and not expecting anything, I feel like that's kind of the the kind of like genuine way to do it. I saw, actually, I don't know if, yeah, the other day, like it was raining outside. It never rains in LA, but it was raining the other day, and I was at the bus stop. I was waiting with another woman who had an umbrella. We both had umbrellas. We're waiting, and there was like a homeless person. Homelessness is a huge issue in LA. There was a homeless person like sleeping on the bus bench where we were waiting for the bus, and he was laying down. It was raining, and the lady next to me, she leans down to him, like whispers something in his ear, and she gives him her umbrella, and it was just like incredible.
Wow.
It's probably been a couple months since that happened, and I'll probably never forget that moment. So it's like you have things like that happen in the world, and if you're on your phone, you're gonna kind of miss out on these things, and you're also not going to be able to be that person who gives someone in need the umbrella or the sandwich or the dollar or whatever it is. And I just think if we're all like more present in the world, that's where like connection happens, and that's where like the best things that happen to me on outside of my family are a smile from a stranger, like little kind of micro transactions like that. And if you're not present, like you miss out on all of that.
Totally agree. Another thing that I've been kind of reading about lately is, karma. And I think you mentioned it, Oliver, is like a lot of people will donate, but they'll put that on social media. They'll make sure they videotape it so the whole world or whoever their network can see it. But for me, it's just like I feel like if I do something right will come back to me in the future, whatever that may be, right? So it's all related to karma and just kind of how you put things into perspective. I think that's the biggest problem now is I see that all the time. Even kids at my kids' school who are in elementary school and not even teenagers yet on smartphones or devices all the time. They're not living in the present. They're not experiencing and seeing what this world has to offer.
Yeah. I mean, so I think that's kind of like my kind of purpose right now is that we all have 24 hours in the day. It doesn't matter if you're Jeff Bezos or you and I, right? Or the listener. It doesn't matter who you are, right? It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter. Can't buy time, right? So that's kind of like the great equalizer. So like, how are you using your time? Are you being purposeful with your time? So like, I listen to NPR a lot, and I think one of the conversations they were having in terms of like finding purpose in life is thinking about yourself like in your 60s, right? Or if you're in your 60s, think about yourself in your 80s, so on and so forth. And like, what's if you had like a moment where you would like complete happiness? Like, what would that be? What would the situation be in your 60s where you know that you've had kind of a good life? Like, what does that look like? And that can help you guide your purpose, right? I mean, they mention kind of money quite a bit, and there's never like mention of money. It's never like a part of that equation. It's for me, it's like probably just like having a meal with like my family,
Hmm.
talking about their days and very simple things, right? So like so it's something simple where you're gathered around your loved ones. So like how do you live your life with purpose to kind of get there, right? And really it's about being a good person at the end of the day,
For sure.
right? If you're not a good person, then your kids will want nothing to do with you in the future. They won't want to bring your grandkids to come see you, and people won't want to be a part of your life, right? Unless you're a good person. So that's something that I try to help guide me. It's like, where do I want to be? Like, what's like a good situation to be in down the road, and what can I do in every moment now, kind of to help me get there?
I love it. I love it. I'm kind of on the same boat too. I always had this mentality of, again, no disrespect to my parents or anything, but my goal and purpose in life has always been, to be better parents than my parents were. They were in different situation, different era and all that, different circumstances, but that's my goal is to be a better parent than they were. And my goal for the future generation or the next generation is for my kids to be a better parent than I've been. And that's just really, just like you said, living in the moment, doing the right things. And what I mentioned earlier is just karma will come back around. You don't need to document this. You don't need to tell your whole social media network that you're doing this and that. There's, powers above who see that and who will, reward me eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think for the parents out there, I mean, it's tough. Like, right, raising kids. We all through different things. Again, like money helps for sure. Like, that's undeniable. But to a certain point, you're not going to be happier. If you have $1 billion, you're not going to be happy with 2 billion. Like, I think it's like 200. I think they've measured this. It's like over $250,000. It doesn't really make like a huge difference, something like that. So, just living your life in a good way. And then, oh yeah, and then coming back, I lost my train of thought there for a second. But like with families, obviously, yeah, money helps you in a lot of ways. You can take them on vacations and all that kind of stuff and what have you. I mean, really at the end of the day it's all about raising good people. That's really all it is. So if you are like dirt poor, but your kid is a really nice kid, then you did a good job. You know what I
Agreed.
mean? Like, and if you're a billionaire and you raise these rotten kids, then you didn't do a good job, or your maids or your nannies didn't do a good job. So, I think there's when you mention like, expectations and all that, I think it's also like just grace, right? Just like, like kind of forgiving yourself sometimes.
Sure.
Sometimes you don't make the right choice or you don't say the right thing, but we're all just trying our best. And again, I mean, at the end of the day, as a parent, we just want to fill the world with good people, right? And then the world will be a good place to live in. So,
Totally
so
agree.
that's if there's any parents out there, that's kind of just what I want to say. And I think we don't hear it enough. We don't hear it enough. There's not a lot of people talking. I don't think talking to parents and saying, it's all right. You're doing your best.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you mentioned about the whole money thing, Oliver, is it's been almost a year since my dad passed on in May of last year. And right after that, I was reading a lot of articles about moving on to the next life, right? And there was a lot of articles kind of around three things that people wish that they would have done differently, at the end. I think a hospice nurse was interviewing a bunch of people, and it was a very common theme. They were saying like, "Oh, I wish I didn't spend so much time working and earning all this money because, like, at the end of the day, you can't take the money with you to the grave. It doesn't matter how much money you have." And a lot of people were actually saying that they wish that they spent more time with their family. They wish that they spent more time on personal growth or things that they were interesting to them besides making money. So it's very common, and life is short. I know people Oliver and I both know people who's younger than us who are no longer on this earth anymore, but they still have that mindset is they have to grind every day, make that money to be complete and happy and all that. But honestly, there's more to life than just that. Just being the right, good person, raising right people, helping improve this earth somehow. It's just, those things matter more than money and all the other materialistic things.
Right. Yeah. And then, I think in terms of like expectation, some of it is also like understanding what you actually have control over
Sure.
and what you do not have control over, and maybe just focusing on the things that you do have control over, immediate control over. And because, yeah, I mean, if you look at the world, as a whole, then it can be overwhelming. But if you kind of break it down to what you actually can touch and what you can actually affect, then it makes it a little bit less insurmountable. So,
Totally agree.
yeah. So, yeah. So, we talked a lot about kind of purpose and about how you can take things and the lessons from golf that Bill talked about. I think you can probably pull those from like baseball or probably any kind of swimming. I'm sure there's lessons every stroke, every breath, all those kinds of things. I think there's a lot of lessons that can be taken from probably like discipline is really kind of like the underlying theme there. Anything else you want to mention, Bill?
No, just
Any
just
final thoughts?
just the final thought that I just thought of that popped up in my head here is, I remember it was probably 5+ years ago. I was going through therapy, talking to my therapist about a lot of things, and he actually told me about, I heard about it, but he actually told me to kind of write it down and start reading it several times a day. It's the Serenity Prayer. I'll read the first sentence right now. Is he said, "God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference." And that's just kind of my final thought here in terms of what we talked about is just there are things you can change. There are things that you cannot change, but you have to accept that. But I think the key message here is just having that wisdom and the knowledge to know the difference. I think a few years ago, I was at the stage where I was like, I want to change everything. I want to change the world, but that's impossible. Now I'm actually in a better place where I kind of am starting to see that, okay, you know what? That's the way it is. Accept it. I can't change it. Just deal with it and just, change my mindset about that. And then also on the flip side, I kind of am better at identifying those things that I can change for the better. So, I just want to kind of just leave it off and close with the Serenity Prayer. It's been, it pops in my mind several times. I used to write it all the time. I should start doing that again, but I think it's very meaningful and impactful for human beings and even parents in this world.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's a perfect way to close it out. So yeah. If you wanna, if you whoever's listening out there, in the comments, go and leave a review on our podcast. We'd love to hear your thoughts about kind of what your purpose is and how you kind of manage your everyday life to to reach your purpose, and any other tips or comments that you have. We'd love to hear them.
Likewise. Thank you, everybody. Until next time, we'll see you guys in episode 3.
Thank you.